ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्रचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ वर्स् 95 गूढं चैतन्यमुत्प्रेक्ष्य जडबोधस्वरूपताम् आत्मनो ब्रुवते भाट्टाः चिदुत्प्रेक्षोत्थितस्मृतेः। So now, as a part of this Tvam-pada analysis, we are discussing various confusions which are prevalent among the ordinary people as well as the philosophers. Of course, right, we are discussing confusions regarding philosophers. We are quoting the philosophers rather. What are the confusions? First is regarding the identity of the Atma. Second is regarding the size of Atma. Identity of Atma means Atma. What is Atma? How will you identify whether the physical body is Atma, mind is Atma, senses are Atma, prana is Atma, or Shunyam is Atma, or Vijnanam is Atma, etc. etc. Or Jiva is Atma. Atma is just Jiva, etc. So this is the identity of Atma. And so varieties of the opinions are there among the philosophers, and so this is a confusion. Then second is, I said, a dimension or the size of Atma. And third is the nature of Atma. What is nature of Atma? Is it just consciousness? Is it inert? Or is it a mixture of consciousness and inert, etc.? So chit achit, what is the nature? And regarding this, we are right now discussing the confusions regarding the nature of Atma. And in that, we discussed already these Tarkikas, especially Vaisheshikas, Naiyayikas and Purvamimamsaka. One of the branch of Purvamimamsaka called Prabhakaras. They say the nature of Atma is inert, achit. That has been refuted, of course, by another group of Purvamimamsaka called Bhattamimamsaka. They refuted this, that Atma is achit. And so we are discussing right now, Bhattamatam. So between verse 94 to 97. And in that, we have said, what is a Bhattamatam regarding the nature of Atma? Well, definitely that is, they say, Atma is not achit, but Atma is a mixture of chit and achit. It's a mixture. It is consciousness also and it is inert also. Basically, it has two parts. And they are giving an example of a khadyota. Khadyota means a glowworm. So part of that worm basically is inert and part of it is conscious. I mean, as a light. And the other part is a dark. So like that. So here also, Atma is also, a part of it is a light, consciousness. And part of it is a darkness. I mean, it is inert. So they give that example anyway. But how do they arrive? How can they talk about that Atma is Chit Achit? Nobody can talk, without any basis. Then, well, definitely they should utilize some means of knowledge. Yeah, they utilize some means of knowledge. What's the means of knowledge? Presumption, arthapatti. That's what we were discussing yesterday. What is presumption? What is arthapatti? That you perceive certain fact, but you can't explain that perceived fact unless you take into account a fact which is not perceived. That's what it is, right? So if you don't take into account a fact which is not perceived by you, then you can't explain the perceived fact. And therefore, well, that is how this is called presumption. Then, if you understand this much, I am going to plant another seed of confusion in you. Now, in inference also, this I discussed already in Kenopanishad, I remembered in introduction. Because there is another pramana called Anuman. Before I go into this detail of Pancadasi, all this, let's discuss this. There is another pramanam called Anuman, inference, arthapatti, presumption. Well, basically both are postulates only, right? Both are postulates. Then why there are two pramanas? Inference also, there is a perceived fact. And from that perceived fact is not understood unless you take into account a fact which is not perceived. And standard example I can give you, right? You perceive a smoke. And and it's a fact. But if you don't take into account a fact which is not perceived, you cannot explain the phenomena of the smoke coming out of the mountain top. And therefore, you have to postulate. You have to basically do a anumana. You have to infer. You have to infer the presence of the fire, which is a fact, of course. You have to infer the presence of a fire which is not perceived by you. You have to take into account that. You have to infer. Otherwise, you cannot explain the phenomena of the smoke which is coming out from that mountain top, right? So that's a perceived fact. Cannot be explained unless you take into account a fact which is not perceived, called fire. Fire is right there, it is a fact. It is not perceived by you, but you have to take into account. Otherwise, you cannot explain this phenomena or this fact, perceived fact, that smoke, right? So in presumption also, arthapatti also, you have that kind of a thing. And in inference also, you have this kind of a thing. Then why two pramanas are there? You count 6 pramanas, and then pratyaksha, anumanam, and then arthapatti, and upamanam, and shabda, and anupalabdhi, and all that, right? 6 pramanas. So why you count 2? Ultimately, the idea of this particular means of knowledge is this. The principle of this means of knowledge is this, that in order to explain the perceived fact, you have to take into account a fact which is not perceived by you. In both it is the same thing. Then why don't you call this anumanam is equal to arthapatti, inference is equal to presumption? No. There is one difference between these two pramanas. What is the difference? Well, in order to explain the perceived fact, I take into account a fact which is not perceived, but that inference is just it's an invariable relationship. Like the smoke which is coming out, it's a perceived fact. You can directly infer. You don't have many options of inference. You have a single option, and that single option is to infer the presence of fire there, nothing else. If smoke is coming out, you have to infer only fire. That you don't have option. Oh, if smoke is coming out, maybe fire is there, maybe this may be there, this may be there, that may be there, and out of that you will have to select ultimately a fact which is not perceived. It's not like that. It's a single connection. We call it as an invariable concomitance, invariable relationship between smoke and fire. And so you will have, if it is a one step inference, it is inference, anumana. It's a just one step. If smoke is there, perception, fact, only you will have to infer fire only. Then you can explain that perception of a smoke. Whereas in presumption, it is not that. Many options are there. I will give you another yesterday's example, COVID example, right? Now the symptoms of this particular disease, well, it's perceived, right, by a doctor, even by the person also. The fire, you maybe a fever or whatever. Several things are there, congestion, this. There are, because now I can't think of. People are telling varieties of the symptoms, and therefore there may be asymptomatic also. Well, but let's take into account that there are symptoms which are perceived, which is a fact. Now, from that perceived, to explain that perceived fact, well, you have only one option, that it is COVID only. No. It may be flu, it may be this, it may be that, or it may be just like that. A person may be sneezing or coughing or etc. Does not mean it is COVID. It has happened, of course, that's another way. Oh, he has a COVID only. He has COVID only. People brand him as a COVID patient, but it's not so. It has happened here. People run away from that person. That person has simple just cold and cough. He doesn't actually really have. He is not. He was not contracted by this particular virus. But what I am saying is, just certain symptoms are there. You don't have a choice. But COVID, no. You will have to analyze thoroughly. And the conclusion comes only after that PCR test, etc. You may observe certain symptoms, but doctor will tell you to go for the test. And then just by symptoms, it is COVID only. No. It may be something else, right? So you have many options. When you have many options and then ultimately you connect or you relate these symptoms to a particular disease, before that there are many steps. It is unlike seeing the smoke and then you have many steps to arrive at the fire. No, it is a single step. So Pujya Swamiji used to describe like this. Inference means a one-step process, because there is an invariable relationship between a smoke and fire. But these symptoms, particular symptoms, just by that you have in one step you arrive at the COVID. No. Particular disease is there. No. The doctor has to analyze thoroughly. So many steps are involved. That's called presumption. Presumption is inference, definitely, but more than one step inference. This is there, therefore flu is not there. This is there, therefore flu is not there. This is there, therefore that is not there. This is there, therefore that is not there. Oh, then this may be COVID, etc. The entire science basically is based on, they give a knowledge based on a means of knowledge called arthapatti. This is a presumption. And that's how, Pujya Swami's example, if you remember, plane takes off and lands, well, based on this presumption. The pilot does not perceive everything. Pilot could not perceive that other plane is arriving on the same strip. runway strip, etc. Well, but he has to presume. He is observing so many facts. I mean, he's seeing so many facts which is coming from his all the machines, etc. And then from that, well, definitely he comes to the conclusion regarding the takeoff or landing, etc. So everywhere, so many places, it's not just a one-step inference, it is more than one-step inference. More than one-step inference, arthapatti. One-step inference, anumanam. Anyway, so now here in verse 95, well, we are seeing this Gudam Chaitanyam, Atmanaha Gudam Chaitanyam, Utpreksha. Well, for this Atma, Gudam Chaitanyam. Gudam means a concealed, a spashtam. We have seen that also yesterday. Well, since Atmanaha Gudam Chaitanyam Utpreksha, well, Bhattas presume this concealed consciousness of Atma obtained in the deep sleep state, and then they arrive at the nature of Atma. What is the nature of Atma? Jada Bodha Swarupatam. Well, Atma is of the nature of Jada Bodha. It's of the inert. I mean, Atma is of the nature of consciousness, and Jada, inert also. And Bhattaha Bruvate, Bhattas declare like that. Bhattas declare the nature of Atma being a mixture of Chit Achit, presuming the concealed consciousness in deep sleep state. And well, so Jadabodha Swarupatam Utpreksha. Okay. And then, well, here, okay, you said presume. So Arthapatti. Okay. Now please explain what is perceived fact and what is imperceptible fact. Please explain. Okay. So perceived fact is your memory. Memory is a perceived. It is a fact. And when you wake up, you have a memory. So it says here, Chit Utpreksha Utthita Smrutehe. Utthita Smrutehe. The Utthitam means basically of a person who has woken up. Smrutehe. From the memory of a person who has woken up, Chit Utpreksha Bhavati. Utpreksha, presumption of Chit. Utpreksha of this Atma. What kind of Atma? Well, Gudham. From the presumption of that concealed consciousness, obtained in a deep sleep state, and based on the memory of the person who has woken up, it can be presumed that Atma is of the nature of consciousness and inert also. It is not clear. What is that memory? So he makes it clear in verse number 96. Jado bhutva tada swapsam iti jadya smritistada vina jadyanubhutim na kathanchit upapadyate. What is that memory in Jagrata Avastha which is a perceived fact? And to explain that memory, to explain that perceived fact, we will have to presume a fact which is not perceived, which is obtained in deep sleep state. Clear? So, two things are there. Perceived fact is your memory. And what is that memory in that waking state? That memory is a perceived fact, experienced fact, and what is that? Well, tada. That time is during deep sleep state. Jado bhutva aswapsam. Jado bhutva. I slept like a log of wood. So I was like a jadavastu. I was like a log of wood and I slept. Iti. So jado bhutva aswapsam iti. So that memory is like this. Memory of what is that memory in a waking state? This is the memory. What? Jado bhutva aswapsam. I was like a jadavastu I was like a inert being, and being an inert, I should not say, anyway, I was like a inert object, and aswapsam, I slept, that kind, iti, in this manner, smritihi bhavet, that kind of smriti is there. What kind of a smriti we can call now? Jadya smriti. So this is a smriti of inertness of myself in sushupti. So Jadya smriti is a compound, and is a madhyama padalopi compound. So you have to insert a one word in between. Jadya smriti is equal to Jadya vishayaka smriti. So Jadya vishayaka smriti, the memory with regards to Jadyam, memory with regards to the inertness of what? Of Atma. In which state? In deep sleep state. How do you express that memory? Well, that memory is of this type. Which type? Well, so jado bhutva aswaps. I was like a jadavastu, I was like a inert thing, and I slept. That kind of a memory is there when you wake up, and from such a Jadya Vishayak Smriti, such a memory with regards to this Jadyam inertness of Atma during deep sleep state. Well, I can presume the nature of Atma being Chit and Achit. What is that? I did not understand, Swami. Yeah. Okay. So now let's go into that. Smriti, perceived fact. And well, so first thing is, from that smriti, what do we presume? See, memory is not possible without experience. I am giving you steps. Memory, perceived fact. Now we have to understand that memory. We have to explain that memory. And well, to explain that memory, which is a perceived fact, we will have to take into account a fact which is not perceived. How? So that's what I am saying. I am doing that. So memory is not possible. First step, memory is not possible without experience. Like I don't have a memory of your Kailas Yatra. You have taken a Kailas Yatra, you have experience. I don't have a memory. One who has experienced has a memory of that incident. And therefore, basically memory would not be possible without experience. First thing. So, tada jadya anubhutim vina vidyanya says. So, well, this experience, of jadatvam, insentiency, at the time of a sleep. So, tada means at the time of deep sleep state. Well, I have experienced that jadatvam, and from there only I got a smriti. So definitely, if I have a smriti that I was like a log of wood, or I was like an inert object, if that kind of a smriti is there, definitely I must have experienced the jadatvam, inertness of Atma in that deep sleep state. Is it okay? So smriti definitely is not possible without experience. And smriti of a jadyam you have, jadya vishayak smriti. So definitely you have experience of jadyam, right? And therefore, tada jadya anubhutim vina. So memory presupposes experience of jadatvam. And so if I have experienced jadatvam in the sushupti, then there must be jadatvam in sushupti, right? So memory of a inertness requires an experience of inertness, and well, experience of inertness proves that well, there is a inertness in that deep sleep state regarding the self, centered on the self. Because I say I did not know anything, I was not knowing myself, I was not knowing anything else in the deep sleep state. So that kind of a experience is there in deep sleep state. That shows if experience of jadatvam of the self you have, then definitely the jadatvam must be there, of jadatvam of the self must be there in deep sleep state. And therefore Atma is Jada. Okay? Atma is Jada. Atma is inert. So anyway, so memory proves experience. Memory proves the experience of Jadatvam. Memory of Jadatvam proves experience of Jadatvam. Experience of Jadatvam proves definitely the presence of Jadatvam during deep sleep state. So, and that Jadatvam, Atma is Jadaha now, is not total. Why? Because experience takes place, then definitely consciousness should be there. Okay? Jada cannot explain. Jada cannot experience anything. The table never experiences Jadatvam of itself. Right? A computer cannot experience Jadatvam of itself. And therefore, if I experience a Jadatvam of myself, I must be conscious also. And therefore what? I have consciousness also, and I am Jada also. Swamiji, all 30 years of study, Atma is Chit, Atma is pure consciousness, Shuddha Chaitanya, that, Shuddha Buddha, Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Svabhava, all gone. In fact, we arrive at the pure consciousness from the same experience of the deep sleep state. And these people also analyze deep sleep state experience, and they arrive at Atma is a mixture of Chit and Achit. Clear now? Perceived fact, memory. Well, and to explain that perceived fact, to explain that memory, and what is that memory? Jado bhutva asvapsam. I became like a log of wood in deep sleep state and slept, etc. To explain that, you will have to go back to the fact which is not perceived at that time, right? And therefore, that is how this is called presumption. So presumption of the nature of Atma based on based on explanation of a perceived fact on the basis of a fact which is not perceived by you. Definitely, in deep sleep state, Swamiji, I was experiencing a inertness at that time. That you can't say in deep sleep state. When you wake up and you have a memory, that is perceived. And that is from that perceived fact, from that memory, we go back to the experience. Because Smriti is always based on a experience. Experience of something proves that the presence of something. If I experience right now a cold, definitely the cold is there. Simple thing. And therefore, the Jadya Smriti, experience of the memory of the inertness, proves the experience of inertness. Experience of inertness proves the presence of inertness in deep sleep state. And presence of inertness regarding me only. And therefore, I am Achit. I can presume from the memory. And also, I experience that inertness. Therefore, I must be conscious also. And therefore, I am Chit, I am Achit. Very beautiful. So I have two amshas. I am like a glowworm. I am not Brahman. I am like a glowworm. But in Swamiji, what do they say about the size? I said it is all pervading. So I am all pervading glowworm. And so prakasha aprakashabhyam. So I am all the time having this kind of a thing. Kathan, you can see, don't think these people are foolish. Very brilliant people, very, very brilliant people. Well, they argue at all the level. They can argue at the grammatical level, analyzing the words of the Upanishad at the level of a language, and at the level of they quote even the Shruti Vakyas also. And then they use this reasoning also. So presumption is a one type of reasoning. It's a yukti, and by that yukti, definitely they have arrived at the nature of Atma being a mixture of Chit and Achit. So, Kathanchit na upapadyate vina jadya anubhutim vina, jadya anubhutim vina, na kathanchit upapadyate. If you do not have experienced the jadyam, inertness of Atma, you will not be able to have a memory. Na kathanchit upapadyate, it would not be possible to have a memory of a inertness. You have a memory of inertness of yourself that you express also, which is perceived for you. Memory is a perceived fact. Well, definitely involves experience of Jadyam. Experience of Jadyam proves the presence of Jadyam in a deep sleep state. And so you are Chetan Jad Amsha. Let's go to verse 97. Drashtur drashteralopasya shutas suktau tatastvayam aprakasha prakashabhyam atma khadyodavadyutah. So after yukti is over, so Bhatta says, well, consciousness continues in deep sleep state in a concealed form, is revealed by Shruti also. So you can understand. So between two groups of Purva Mimamsaka, Prabhakaras and Bhattas, Prabhakara says consciousness arises now and then. It's a temporary phenomena. Basically, Atma is inert, but due to sanyoga, due to connection with the mind, consciousness, which is a property, special property of Atma, well, arises. And then Atma Mana Viyoga takes place. When they get dissociated, well, then Atma again becomes inert. So Atma is by nature inert only. That is what Prabhakaras and Nayayika Vaisheshika told. And so now Bhatta, by saying this, what we have seen, he says that consciousness does not go away. In deep sleep state also consciousness is there to experience the inertness of itself. So even because nobody can tell that, well, during a waking state and dream state, I am inert. Nobody can tell, right? To say I am inert, you should be a conscious being. And therefore, nobody challenges. Out of the three states, nobody could challenge that I am a conscious being for the two states. Which two states? In waking, I am a conscious, nobody can challenge. In a dream, I am a conscious being, nobody can challenge because I am experiencing variety of things. But in deep sleep state, well, because you don't experience yourself, and you are not aware of yourself, you are not, much less you are aware of the world, and therefore somebody can arrive at that Atma must be of the nature of Achit, inert, right? That is what even Prabhakaras did. They say Atma Mana Viyoga takes place in deep sleep state. There is a dissociation of an Atma and mind in the deep sleep state, and then Atma is just inert. Whereas in waking state and in dream state, there is a Atma Mana Sanyoga, association, and therefore there is a consciousness. And therefore Atma has a temporary property of a consciousness, and that is arising from the association of both mind and Atma. So this can be there. So he bhattas by saying that, well, that you have an experience of a jadyam of yourself, well, then you must be conscious also. In which state? In deep sleep state. Could you follow? And therefore Atma is of the nature of continuous consciousness, because waking state you are conscious, dream state you are conscious, in deep sleep state also you are conscious, and therefore Atma is just of the nature of consciousness. But you experience jadatvam of yourself also, therefore you are not just a consciousness, you are inert also, right? This is how they have arrived at. So they are refuting Prabhakara Matas or Nayayika Vaisheshika's Mata also, and arrive at this mixture. And well, he says, for this continuous consciousness, well, I am giving you Shruti Pramana also. Upanishad says that Atma is of the nature of continuous consciousness. And Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 4.3.23. That's what Vidyaranya quotes. Drashtuhu drashtehe alopasya shrutah. Shrutah. Shruta means that has been told in the Shruti, in the Upanishad. In Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 4.3.23. This is a nahi drashtuhu drashtehe viparilopaha vidyate avinashitvat. This is a mantra actually. Drashtuhu drashte. So he is paraphrasing. There it is viparilopaha. Here he says alopaha. Same thing. Drashtuhu drashtehe alopaha. Lopaha, disappearance. Alopaha, continuity. So, a continuity of what? See, both are in sixth case. Drashtuhu, sixth case. Drashtehe, sixth case. Drashtuhu is a sixth case of word drashtru, rukaranta. And drashtehe also is a sixth case of the word drashtihi. So, drashtuhu, of this Atma, drashta means of this Atma, and drashtehe, of this consciousness, alopaha, continuity. So continuity of consciousness of Atma. Okay, clear? Because both are six case. Continuity, alopaha, of drashtehe, of the consciousness of drashtuhu, of the Atma. So continuity of the consciousness of the Atma is there. Well, so during deep sleep state also consciousness does not go away from Atma, and therefore, well, Atma is of the nature of consciousness. Don't think Atma is of the nature of Achit, and consciousness just arise now and then. Well, in waking state, when Atma Mana Sanyoga takes place, or in dream state, Atma Mana Sanyoga takes place, that time consciousness arises. No. In deep sleep state also, consciousness continues, and therefore Atma is of the nature of consciousness. But inert also, that is, he has already told. And so, Atma is of, well, so we sometimes use this expression, right? During accident, we know, coma, etc. We say, he has become unconscious. Nobody can become unconscious, okay? He says Atma is of the nature of consciousness, continuous consciousness. And so, we all commit this mistake. So, Bhatta says, well, nobody can become unconscious. It is only a concealed consciousness. Deep sleep state, coma, or some kind of during accident, etc., whatever. So, well, consciousness is just concealed. Conscious being can never become unconscious. Okay? And therefore it is concealed by jadamsha, by inertness, etc. So, but how do you say that this is a mistake to say that this person has become unconscious? How do you say it is a mistake? Shruti says. What is a Shruti statement? This is a statement. Drashtuhu drashtehe alopaha. Continuity of the consciousness of the Atma is there, and therefore nobody can become unconscious. So in Sushupti also, well, it is there. Anyway, so tataha tu, therefore only, ayam prakasha aprakasha bhyam khadyotavat yutaha. So ayam Atma, basically this Atma, well, definitely yutaha. Yutaha means a mixture. This Atma, so from whatever we have discussed, from that only, tataha means from that only, well, ayam Atma, this Atma, yutaha is a mixture of prakasha aprakasha bhyam, is a mixture of prakasha chit and a prakasha achit. So it has two amshas. Basically Atma has two amshas, chit and achit. When you say Atma is of the nature of both, you will have to say, well, two amshas are there automatically. And so Atma is a Ardhanarishvara Purusha, right? Ardhanarishvara. Now we are coming inside, and we'll say, yeah, we are also. So we were sitting in that lazy boy chair and drinking a cup of coffee. We suddenly took that microphone in our hand and we said, yes, you are absolutely right. We also talk about the Purusha or Paramatma, who is Ardhanarishvara. So half is unconscious, half is inertness, half is conscious. Purusha and Prakriti, Atma, Anatma, and Brahman, Maya. Clear? Maya is inert, Brahman is consciousness. Yes, you are right. Oh, Bhatta, you are absolutely right. Atma is of the nature of, well, consciousness and inertness. Right? Is it true? So we and Bhatta are very, very close friends. In fact, that is true. Compared to Prabhakaras, we don't like Prabhakaras. Because Bhattas say something, well, which really supports our view regarding Atma. They say Atma is inert. So we say we hate you. We tell to Prabhakaras. And these Bhattas say Atma is of the nature of consciousness and inertness. So you are very close to us. Because we believe Atma is consciousness. But somehow we now agree with him that Atma is of the nature of inertness and consciousness. Ardhanarishwara. Our Dakshinamurti, in Silasburg, is Ardhanarishwara. Maya and Brahman. Because you, Swamiji, you all the time say Maya is Anadi, and Brahman also is Anadi. So both are there all the time together. Therefore, inertness, Maya, and consciousness, Brahman, all the time together. And they also say Atma is of the nature of, who? Bhattas say Atma is of the nature of consciousness and inertness. So, it's the same philosophy. Very nice. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahman, all this, you forget about that. Jnanam means basically, well, consciousness is there, continuous consciousness is there, but inertness also is there. Okay, very nice. So, in Bhatta philosophy, Jada, now I am giving you the difference, okay? So, that Jada Amsha is intrinsic nature of Atma. Chetan Amsha also is an intrinsic nature of Atma. Who says? Bhatta. Vedanti says this Jada Amsha is not intrinsic nature of Atma. Only Chetan Amsha is intrinsic nature of Atma. Just as rope snake can never be the intrinsic part of the rope. Same way Jada Amsha can never be the intrinsic part of Atma. That's a big difference. The relationship between the Maya and Brahman is different. Don't think both have a same reality. Maya is basically mithya. Maya's very existence and the illumining of Maya, etc., is just possible due to Brahman. Maya is non-separate from Brahman. Not that both are having a same reality or can be independent and then combine sometime and go, etc. Maya is all the time non-separate from Brahman, which is mithya, and Brahman is the satyam, and therefore consciousness is the intrinsic nature of Atma, and Jadamsha, Maya, etc., well, is a Mithyamsha. Like rope snake is not an intrinsic part of rope or nature of rope. So, this is a big difference between us and Bhattas. Well, both Jadamsha and Chetanamsha are intrinsic part of Atma, whereas we say Jadamsha is a Mithyamsha. But is it possible? Well, we ask him, can there be an object which is having both? Is it possible? You are saying Jadamsha and Chetanamsha both have a same degree of reality. That is, both amshas are there in Atma, which are really, which are really opposite in nature. Jadam and Chetanam cannot be in one locus, which are just opposite. But is it possible that one part is Jadam and one part is inert? One part is conscious? Is it possible? We are asking him. He said, yeah, it is possible. I am giving you an example of what? I am giving you an example. Khadyotam. Khadyota, what means example? Like. What means like. Like Khadyota. Like this glowworm. Well, one part is bright, other part is dark. Same way the Atma also is like a Khadyota. One part is conscious, other part is inert. And so it is possible. Okay? Now, let's go to verse 98. निरंशस्य उभयात्मत्वं न कथंचित् घटिष्यते तेन चिद्रूप एवात्मा इत्याहुः सांख्य विवेकिनः. With the previous shloka, Bhattamatam is over. Okay, 94 to 97. We have discussed Bhattamatam. Before that, we discussed Prabhakaramatam. What we are discussing is nothing but the confusions regarding the nature of Atma. So, first we discussed Prabhakaramatas or Nayayika Vaisheshika Matas, Tarkikas Matam, which says the nature of Atma is inert. Then this Bhattamatam between verse 94 to 97 discussed the nature of Atma being the mixture of Chit and Achit, consciousness and inertness. And now from 98 onwards, now we are discussing another confusion, another philosopher who has a confusion regarding the nature of Atma. What do they say? These people, now the Sankhya's come. And Sankhya says Atma is Chit Rupa. Atma is nature of consciousness. Hey Swamiji, is it a confusion? Atma is a nature of consciousness, is a confusion or it's a knowledge? No, it is a confusion. Because they are labeled as a Sankhya's, what they say will object. Yes, you cannot object like that. Atma is of the nature of consciousness. Our ears are full of that and our head is full of that. How can you say it is a confusion? We'll discuss that. Anyway, so Bhattamatam says Atma is nature of Chit Achit, and and he has committed a mistake of taking this Anandamaya as Atma, Anandamaya Kosha as Atma, whereas actually we say Anandam is Atma. And Anandamaya Kosha is a mixture of two things, right? Anandamaya Kosha is of the nature of Chit Achit. Everything is a mixture actually. But here, Anandamaya Kosha, you take it as Atma. Then definitely is this mixture has been taken as a reality. Well, that's a mistake. Actually, Anandamaya has two things. Chidabhasa is there, which is appearing as a Chitamsha, and then reflecting medium definitely also is there. And so that is Jadamsha, and definitely then it's a mixture. Chit Achit. Well, that's what they say. Anandamaya alone is Anandamaya Kosha alone is Atma. We say it is a Kosha. They don't say. They say Anandamaya is Atma. Kosha means definitely it proves that it's a mixture. Kosha means it covers. Kosha means which covers. Covers what? Covers the nature of Atma. Anandamaya Kosha being there, it covers the nature of Atma the nature of Atma is Ananda, which has been covered by this Kosha. Then, and how do you say it is covered? How do you say? Because I say I am Anandamaya. Over. When you say I am Anandamaya, already my nature, which is Ananda, is covered. Anandamaya Kosha is a limited, whereas I am of the nature of limitlessness. That's Ananda. Ananda means a Purnatvam. So it's a fullness that has been covered. When I say I am Anandamaya, I am a limited entity, I am this, etc., etc. Definitely it has been covered. So they are missing what is the real nature of the self. Who are missing? This Bhatta is missing by saying Chit, Achit, etc. So, and then now from verse 98, this was, we discussed Bhattamatam between 94 to 97, and now verse 98 to 101, we are going to discuss Sankhyas, who are refuting this Bhattamatam, that Atma is of the nature of Chit and Achit. And they say, Atma is not of the nature of Chit and Achit, it's of the nature of Chit alone. Atma is pure consciousness. So, he says here, Niramshasya Ubhayatmatvam. He is refuting. Niramshasya. You say Atma has two amshas. One is a Chit amsha, one is a Achit amsha. O Bhattas, you are saying like that. Niramshasya Ubhayatmatvam. Actually, Atma is free from the parts. Since Atma is all pervading, And according to Shruti, Atma is Niramsha. Niramsha means Niravayavam. Right? Bhagavan also said in Bhagavad Gita in the second chapter, Atma is Niravayavam, and other places in Upanishad, everywhere it is there. Atma is basically having no parts. You say Atma is having parts. So there itself, there itself there is a contradiction. And how can you take Atma as a Jada and Chit Amsha? So there is a Shruti Virodha, and also we are Yukti Virodha also. It doesn't fit into our reasoning that Atma is having a parts of Chit Amsha and Jada Amsha. What is the Yukti Virodha? Shruti Virodha is all right there. It is there, because never in any Upanishad or even in Bhagavad Gita, anywhere it has been told that Atma is having parts. And how did you arrive at this kind of a conclusion? So it's not true. So there is a Shruti Virodha. There is a contradiction with respect to the Shruti statements. That's the one thing. And then Yukti Virodha also is there. It doesn't fit into a reasoning that Atma is having parts. How? Well, so once you say Atma has got parts, Atma becomes Anityam. This I have already discussed while refuting Jainamatam. Anything which has a part, well, is Anityam. Right? We say differently. Anything which has a parts falls apart. Right? So we say it like that. So whatever is Anityam, whatever has a parts is Anityam. Yat Savayavam Tat Anityam. And therefore, so whatever is a part basically is assemblage, Sanghata, and any assemblage, any Sanghata is Karyam. Yat Karyam Tat Anityam. So, I am telling you again. So, anything which has a parts will be Anityam. Right? So, first we say Yat Savayavam Tat Anityam. How? Well, Yat Savayavam, which has a parts, is definitely an assemblage. It's an assembly called Sanghataha. Anything which has a parts is definitely an assembly. And assembly proves that it is created. Who has put the parts together in order to serve a certain purpose? A car is an assembly of various parts. And definitely it has been put together with a certain purpose, right? That is anything, any assembly, well, definitely has a parts, and that is all the parts are put together, and which is in order to serve a certain purpose, and therefore it is karyam. It is a product because the parts are put together. Anyway, and yat karyam tad anityam. So, yat savayavam tat karyam, yat karyam tad anityam. Anything which has a parts is a product, and any product is anityam, is temporary. So, then Atma also has a parts. You say Atma is Chit and Achit, Chidamsha, Achidamsha, and therefore it is put together. If it is put together, it's an assembly. Well, it's a product. So Atma is a product, and then it is Anityam. Any product is Anityam. Anything which is created, well, definitely is Anityam. That's you know also. So basically, Atma is Karya. So now I will give you Yukti. I will give you Anumana Vakyam. Yukti means reasoning. Atma Karyam. Atma is a product. Why? Savayavatvat. Because it has a parts. Then give an example that which has a parts is called Karyam. Ghatavat. We always bring this pot. Pot is a Karyam, product, created. Because parts are put together. So this is one thing. Then Atma Anityaha Karyatvat Ghatavat. Atma is Anityaha. Why? Because it's a product. And therefore it is Anitya. Give example. Pot. Pot is basically Anityam, right? Pot is Anityam because it is a product. How do you say it is a product? Because parts are put together. And therefore, well, Atma becomes Anityam. And no Upanishad tells, nowhere it is told, Nitya Sarvagata Sthanu Achaloyam Sanatah. Everywhere, Nityopalabdhi Swarupoyam Atma, any place you show us, in Upanishad, in Bhagavad Gita, that Atma is Anitya. Please show. Nowhere it has been told. So how did you arrive at this Chid, Achid, Amsha, parts? Atma has two parts. How do you arrive at it? Who is telling? We are not telling. We are just taking a cup of coffee, one after the other, because we require. We have to also think, right? Because the way they come out with all these conclusions, baffles us also. That is, let me think over. I say Atma is pure consciousness, but they are saying like this. And from the analysis of the experience everyone has, we also arrive at Atma is Chit Swarupa from the analysis of the experience of deep sleep state. And they also arrive at Atma is Chit Achit Amsha. Well, say from the analysis of deep sleep state experience. Wow. So it makes us, we have to also think, we have to answer ultimately, right? And therefore, well, so we are taking a cup of coffee, one after the other. No problem. So, now three things are there. Confusions regarding the nature of Atma. Well, Atma is Achit Swarupaha, Pravakaras, etc., Nayayika Vaisheshikas. Then, a little improvement by Bhattas. Atma is not just Achit. Atma is Chit Achit. That's a Bhatta. And now Sankhya says they came very close to Vedanta. And they say Atma is Chit Swarupa. Atma is nature of pure consciousness. Still Sankhya's are Sankhya's and Vedantins are Vedantins. Okay? Because otherwise you say Atma is Chit Swarupa, then well, make a friendship with them. But then still there is a difference. Yeah, otherwise they will not be a Purupakshis. They become a Siddhanti. Sankhya's and Vedantins are very close. In some of the places we quote Sankhya Matam also, especially for creation, etc. Bhagavan quotes also. So, well, so it may look like that we and Sankhya's are one alone, but no. We have to see that difference. We'll see that also later. So, Atma is, Sankhya's are very close to Vedanta, and what they say about Atma, I will tell you few more things also. They say Atma is consciousness, one thing. Atma is asanga. Atma is unconnected to anything. Atma is all-pervading. All these are very common between us and Sankhyas. But the biggest difference is this. What? Don't have a suspension. We say Atma is one. Ekam eva advaita. No, they say Atmas are many, all-pervading, unconnected, and consciousness, that is Atma, are many in number, not one. That is why I say even Sankhyas, even though they are Astikas, they believe in the validity of the Veda, but their priority for arriving at the nature of Atma goes to the Yukti Pramana, not Shruti. That's how we include. Even in fact, Bhashyakara includes Sankhyas also in a Tarkika. Tarka is a main Pramana. We say, look at the statement of the Shruti in the Chandogya Upanishad. Sadeva Somedamagra Asit Ekam Eva Advitiyam. It is one without second. There is nothing other than Atma. This all-pervading consciousness, which is unconnected to anything, is one alone. What you see, manyness, is all mithya. Well, they don't say that. Wo Sankhyas. So, definitely, even though they say Atma is Chit Swarupaha, Atma is Asangaha, Atma is Sarvavyapi, all the way very similar to us, still in terms of number, well, a big difference between us and Sankhyas. We say Ekaha, they say Anekaha. That's a big difference. Anyway, what Vidyaranya says, look at this please. So, Niramshasya Ubhayatmatvam na kathanchit gatishyate. So, well, this Atma which is a Niramsha, which is Niravayavam, Ubhayatmatvam has two parts. Na kathanchit gatishyate, it will not be possible because it's a logical fallacy. Atma becomes anitya, etc., which I explained you. Tena means tena karanena chid rupaha eva atma iti ahuhu. Well, Atma is chid rupaha. Atma is consciousness. Iti ahuhu declares. Who? Sankhya Vivekinaha. Sankhya Vivekinaha declares. So the Sankhyas, and Vidyaranya says Vivekinaha. That these great Sankhyas, this thinker Sankhyas declare that Atma is just Chidrupaha. It cannot be mixture. Mixture means two parts. Parts means an assembly. Assembly means a product created. Then anything which is created is anityam, and therefore Atma becomes anityam, and it has not told anywhere that Atma is anityam, and therefore, well, we can't accept it. Atma is not chit achit amshadvayam, but Atma is chidrupa. That is how Sankhya's refuted Bhattas. Bhattas have refuted that Prabhakaras, etc. And so this is how the whole thing is going. In between I am telling you and comparing with Vedanta, and so you will not be confused. But this is how we have arrived at this point. Now the further we'll have to see on Sunday, not Saturday. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.